Hi everyone. It's the second week of August, and because I have a busy weekend this upcoming weekend, we're going on a long weekend trip to a place in West Virginia called Seneca Rocks. It's a climbing and fly fishing area. Remote, we love it. So I'm also right now doing a vlog of a book I'm reading, which I'll talk about in a second, and I might insert some clips from that trip. So you will probably already have seen that. I don't know when this is going to be posted versus when the other one's going to be posted, the vlog. But I wanted to quickly just update you on some really great stuff that I've read and that I'm reading before I take these books back to the library, because I have to do a lunchtime library run, probably tomorrow, before the end of the week, so I can get some holds that I have in and return these things. All right, I'm going to start off with The Vet's Daughter by Barbara Cummins. This is only my second Barbara Cummins. I'm really interested to keep on reading her. I'm not paying attention to what books, like in what order I'm reading them. I've read Our Spoons Came from Woolworths. This one, I don't want to give away anything. So number one, don't read anything about this book before going in. I knew that this was going to be about the daughter of a vet. That's all I knew. And I think this was written turn of the century, like 1911. Was it her second novel? Wow, it's intense. It's an intense relationship. She's a young woman living with her father who's awful. And her mother dies. Very sad. And really this book is about the main character's ways of surviving her life and where she finds comfort and friendship and how she has to find those things. The other people that come into the house after her mother dies are interesting, and she gets herself wrapped up in those other people or that other person, whether she likes it or not. What's her name? They live in a sinister London suburb. I don't think the book on the back, I don't think the description on the back really gives up a lot, so that's good. It says, harrowing and haunting, like an unexpected cross between Flannery O'Connor and Stephen King. Does that give you an idea? It's not a horror book. It's not. But you know those parts, those unexpected parts of Lolly Willows? That's all I'm going to say. I thought it was wacky, the end of it, as it keeps. I mean, the end is not funny or anything, but like, what a choice. Now, I haven't read enough Barbara Cummins to know if this is something that she's putting inside this book, just like with Sylvia Townsend Warner in Lolly Willows, putting in the witchery aspect, which is done very lightly. I don't know that that's ever done in any of her other books, so really interesting. I'm really looking forward to continue reading Barbara Cummins. Then I had this on my shelf, and as I'm trying to make sure that I'm incorporating books that I have on my own shelves, because this is my first Edith Wharton, Ethan Frome. I didn't know anything about this book. Did I read the back? Yeah, a little bit. Ethan Frome works his unproductive farm and struggles to maintain a bearable existence with his difficult, suspicious, and hypochondriac wife, Zena. And I knew that there was some, what does it say here? The classic novel of despair, forbidden emotion, and sexual undercurrents. So I was like, what is this about? That's really all I knew. And man, this does not disappoint. It's intense. It's propulsive. I loved Edith Wharton's sense of place. She really brings Western Massachusetts alive at this time, which is like, what is it? I think this one's the turn of the century. I was completely wrong about this one. I'm getting them mixed up. I'll put the correction. Anyway, yeah, so this is like turn of the century, but it's about like late 1800s, Western Massachusetts, in these small towns, which become very remote in the wintertime. Very closed in, sometimes not even to the point where you can't get to the railway station by horse and carriage. And that is like a character in and of itself, is this intense solitude and loneliness, especially if you're with people that are difficult then you're even more alone, even though you're with people. So I thought that was a really cool component. And so I'm really looking forward to reading some of her other books. I tried starting House of Mirth, and I just wasn't in the mood yet for that. So if you have any recommendations of where to go, what is it, The Age of Innocence, I think a lot of people talk about, then let me know. But I highly recommend this really short, very propulsive and impactful story. She has a way of being very like economical with the way she writes, and being impactful at the same time. So this was a great first example for me of Edith Wharton. Then I really am going to stop saying that I'm not a short story reader, because I have two of them here. Two books of short stories. I saw this one in one of my normal places, whether it was the New York Times or the New Yorker talked about. This was written, this is not new, but maybe this is a new edition. Who is this done by? University of Texas Press. And this is short story collection by Juan Rulfo, The Plain in Flames. Isn't that a gorgeous picture? I love Joshua Tree, and this, I mean, is that a Joshua tree? It certainly looks like a type of tree like that. These stories take place in Mexico, and Juan Rulfo is himself from Mexico. And I'm almost speechless. So I'm going to just rely on what the person, Elon Stavins, has written here to try to explain this, because he says, so he talks about a handful of Rulfo stories qualify as fresh, spontaneous, inevitable. He talks about It's Because We're Poor, You Don't Hear Dogs Barking, and Luvina. I've read those three in this selection, and I would agree with that. Their depth seems almost inexhaustible. With a few strokes, Rulfo creates a complex human landscape defined by desolation. These stories are lessons in morality. They teach us to calibrate our emotions, to understand the limits of anger. They are also astonishing examples of artistic distillation. The choice of words never seems casual. Yeah, well said. I could not put into words my experience as well as that. It says, it's in these stories, however, where Rulfo's talent shines brightest. Even those that seem fractured, maybe even slightly off-key, have a concentration that makes them breathtaking. Mexico becomes the theater where the plots unfold, although the extreme poverty that characterizes them and the way nature defines character could be found in any rural area of the globe where civilization doesn't appear to have arrived. Yeah, and that's really the tone of these stories. The landscape, the desolation of the landscape, and the people's experience are characters of their own in these stories. Yeah, it was something else, is all I can say. Highly recommend. You know what? It was one of those other two places that I did also come across this book, Emergency, by Kathleen Alcott. Now, Kathleen Alcott has also written a book. So she's also written a novel called Infinite Home. And I have that on my library shelf for looking at later. She has taught at Columbia University and Bennington College. Isn't that where Donna Tartt went to college? So I don't know how old Kathleen Alcott is, maybe in her 30s or early 40s. But I didn't read, so not all the stories clicked for me in this book, but can I tell you that the first story, isn't it Emergency? Is that what the first story is? Check. Yeah. I loved it so much. And the thing I believe that really got it for me was that it's told in second person, which is so rare, and I absolutely loved it. So it's like these are friends of the main character, and I think the main character's name is Helen, and they're talking about her, and are they really friends? Their friendship has changed because Helen has somewhat gone off the rails. I loved that. I absolutely loved it. So, And a couple of the other stories I also liked. But just to get a taste of her writing, I highly recommend this book of short stories and especially the first story. I'm really glad that I checked it out. I am loving this book so much. I don't know where I saw it, but I'm so glad I saw it. The Cat Who Saved Books by Sosuke Natsukawa. He is a very well-known Japanese writer. And somebody commented when I said that I was reading this book, someone commented that he is a doctor in Nagano, Japan. His first book, God's Medical Records, a novel drawn from his experiences working as a physician, won the Shogakukan Fiction Prize. This could be YA so far. I mean, I'm almost done with it, but I think it's so dear. And this young man who's running his grandfather's bookshop, his grandfather has just died, and he's going to school, high school, I guess. And there's this tabby cat that appears in the shop, and he needs the main character, whose name is Rintaro, to help him save books. And it's so cute and just so well done how he goes on these adventures. And it's not really, I mean, yes, he's saving books. Maybe he's really saving the people. So how does this change Rintaro? It remains to be seen, but he is changed by these experiences. Absolutely loving this book. Highly, highly recommend. And then I will end by saying that it's funny how these things happen. So I got this book out of the library because two booktuber friends of mine, The Grim Reader and Sarah at Hardcover Hearts, are buddy reading this, which put it back on my radar. And I thought, I've heard of this book, The Master and Margerita by Mikhail Bulgakov. Has its 50th anniversary. This is a stunning cover. There's a couple stunning covers of this book, so check those out. I just was staring at them for a while online. But I read the first chapter and I loved it. But then the second chapter is titled Pontius Pilate. And I was feeling like, if I get into this chunky book, which I wasn't expecting to get into, but here I am. I feel like if I'm going to read a chunky book, then I'm going to turn to the book that I actually really was thinking about reading this year, which is chunky, which is Middlemarch. And I might have already posted my blog on this, so who knows? I don't know about the timing. But I was thinking like this is a 600-page book, so why not just dip into the 800-page book that I wanted to read? But actually this is 400 pages. But nevertheless, I now started reading Middlemarch. I knew I would love this book. I read the first couple pages, like the first chapter or so, a few months ago, and I knew I would love this book. I've read a lot of Trollope now with the Barsetshire Chronicle series, and I am feeling a bit of that type of writing in that we're focusing on a certain part of England, which is Middlemarch, the village or town of Middlemarch, to the point that people have been there all their lives and they call themselves Middlemarchers. And we are focusing on the sisters, Dorothea and Celia Brooke, who are orphans and have been raised or have been staying with their uncle. We are mainly focusing on Dorothea. And very early in this book, she gets married. That is not a spoiler because that's how the book starts out. To the point where I was thinking, what else happens? I don't understand. And then there are a couple other plot lines. And I'm just adoring this book. So go look at that vlog. And you will get more details about my reading experience because I could go on and on. As I record this, I am on page 219. So yeah, I'm like devouring this thing. It's addictive, propulsive. That's all I wanted to update all of you on. I would love to know, please come and tell me your thoughts on any of these guys. And I want to know, has anyone read Kathleen Alcott's novel? That's one thing that would be interesting to me. And yeah, please join in the conversation. Let me know your experience with these authors and what you're reading right now in this almost mid-August. I forgot to add that thinking of reading another Celia Fremlin in September. It's called Uncle Paul, and it looks interesting. I actually had to search for and order a used copy. Tried to find the cheapest copy I could with this cool cover because my library didn't have it, which is extraordinary that it didn't have Uncle Paul. But anyway, so yeah, I feel like I'm gonna read it in September. I thought I would use a hashtag called Fremlin in the Fall. Anyway, I had read my first Celia Fremlin. Oh, The Parasite Person. It was so interesting. That's what I wanted to add. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.